All right, welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive. This time, we're heading back to the X-Files, Season 1, Episode 14, Gender Bender.
Ooh, a classic.
Definitely. We're going to be digging into not just the episode itself, but also all those little behind-the-scenes tidbits, the production stories, the things that make it stick in your memory. Sort of a nostalgic mystery tour, you could say.
I like that. And Gender Bender is definitely a good one to revisit. I mean, even for Season 1, it went pretty far out there.
It did, right from the start, actually. I mean, you get that opening scene in the nightclub, a young guy just drops dead. But then, and this is the part that always gets me, the person he was with, boom, complete gender transformation.
Right, like right there on the spot. It's not even like a gradual thing.
Nope, instant. And that's when you know, okay, this is X-Files territory.
For sure. And it's not just a one-off thing either. This whole string of strange deaths, that's what brings Mulder and Scully in.
Exactly. And these pheromones, right, that whole idea that, well, you never really know who or what you're dealing with, it makes it so much creepier.
Oh, absolutely. It really messes with your sense of, like, basic identity. And then, of course, the trail leads them to this super isolated community.
The Kindred, talk about a fitting name. They're like this weird mix of Amish and, I don't know, something else entirely.
Right, living completely off the grid. And they're not exactly welcoming to outsiders.
No. But Scully, she has that interesting encounter with Brother Andrew, tending to the horses.
That was a weird one. I mean, just a handshake, but...
But there's something more to it, isn't there? Like this undercurrent of, I don't know, power or influence. You just know something's off.
Definitely. It's like a hint of what they're capable of.
Yeah.
And it's not just physical.
Nope. And then you get to the village, right?
Yeah.
Having to give up their weapons to even enter.
Yeah, not your typical welcome wagon.
Yeah.
And then that dinner scene. Tense doesn't even begin to describe it.
And that sick guy, remember? They won't even consider outside help for him. It's like they have their own way of doing things.
And it's a way that doesn't include the outside world at all. Makes you wonder what they're so afraid of.
Or hiding. Meanwhile, back at the nightclub, well, let's just say history seems to be repeating itself.
Another seemingly innocent touch.
Yeah. You start to see how insidious it is, how easily people can be drawn in.
And is it just biology?
Yeah.
Just pheromones?
Yeah.
Or something more? That's the question.
Good question. And then, of course, Mulder being Mulder, he starts to notice things. Like, where are all the kids in this village?
Yeah. And those old photographs.
Right. Faces that haven't aged a day, going back decades. That's when you realize, okay, there's something really strange going on here. And it pushes them to sneak back in under cover of darkness.
Talk about atmosphere. You've got the lantern light, the chanting.
So creepy. And while Mulder's down in that cellar, Scully runs into Brother Andrew again.
And he tries to feed her this story about a brother Martin who left the community seduced by the outside world.
Trying to throw them off the scent.
Classic misdirection. But Mulder, down in that cellar, he finds something way more disturbing.
Oh, yeah. The body being bathed in that weird fatty substance.
And then the sick guy from the dinner, buried alive.
Yeah. And starting to change, to look more feminine. It's just, wow.
Definitely not your typical religious ritual.
Nope. And while this is going on, Brother Andrew is getting a little too close for comfort with Scully. Luckily, Mulder shows up just in time.
But they still have to get out of there. And the Kindred? They could have stopped them, but they don't. It's almost like a show of force through restraint.
Interesting. Okay, so back in the outside world, remember Michel from the nightclub? He tells this story about his encounter.
Which ends with, let's just say, a rather dramatic transformation.
Understatement of the century. And it's the first time anyone outside the community actually witnesses this gender-bending ability firsthand.
Makes it a lot harder to dismiss as just mass hysteria or something, right?
Right. And then there's that stolen credit card, which leads Mulder and Scully to a hotel room.
Where they find, well, let's just say things get pretty intense.
Yeah. Marty, in female form, talking to a dead body. And that line, "The day is coming and they won't leave without me." Chilling.
Super chilling.
Yeah.
And the way the other Kindred members just appear. It's like they can teleport or something.
Seriously. But the police raid the village and it's deserted, tunnels sealed up, poof, they're gone.
Vanished. Except for one little detail.
That crop circle in the field.
The ultimate X-Files twist.
Yeah. Leaves you wondering, what were they? Where did they come from? Where did they go?
So many unanswered questions. Which I think is what makes Gender Bender so memorable. It's one of those episodes that really sticks with you.
Definitely. And even behind the scenes, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Like, did you know Nicholas Lea, who played Krycek later on, is actually in this episode?
No way.
Yeah, a tiny part. One of the victims in the opening scene, it's almost like a little foreshadowing.
Wow, that's wild. And what about the Kindred themselves? Like, where did that idea come from?
Apparently, they were inspired by groups like the Amish and the Shakers. You know, the isolation, the strict rules.
Oh, I see. But then they added the whole supernatural, possibly alien element on top of that.
Right. And actually, the original ending was supposed to be even weirder, more overtly alien.
Makes you wonder what that would have been like.
I know. And you know, this episode was actually pretty controversial when it aired. I mean, gender fluidity, seduction, murder.
Yeah, not exactly lighthearted fare.
Nope. It almost got banned in some countries.
Wow. Guess it pushed a few buttons.
It did. And this was also one of the first times Mulder and Scully encountered mind control, or at least something like it.
Blue touch, right.
Right, just another layer of weirdness to this whole thing. And I always loved the atmosphere in this episode. The village, the candlelight, the chanting. It's all so effectively creepy.
Yeah, they did a great job with the visuals.
Yeah.
Especially for the season 1 episode.
Totally. And that blend of horror and sci-fi, that's what makes this episode so unique. And it definitely sparked a lot of debate among fans about the true nature of the Kindred.
Cult. Experiment gone wrong. Aliens. Who knows?
Exactly. It's all up for interpretation. Which is probably why it ended up being one of the most divisive episodes of the season.
People either loved the mystery or hated the lack of answers.
Pretty much. And speaking of the mystery, Glenn Morgan, one of the producers, initially wanted a kind of sexy vibe for the episode.
Interesting.
Yeah. But they quickly realized that portraying sex as scary is, well, it's a tough thing to pull off.
For sure. So they leaned more into the alien angle.
Right. And the original script was actually influenced by H.R. Geiger, you know, the artist who did all those biomechanical designs.
Oh, wow. That makes sense, given the whole transformation aspect.
Yeah. Apparently there was even a scene that got cut because it was too graphic.
Now I'm really curious what that was.
Me too. And here's a funny little fact. The Kindred chanting. That wasn't even in the original script.
No way.
Yeah. A producer added it later.
Wow. Goes to show you how much those little details can add to the overall feel.
Absolutely. Casting was also interesting. They specifically looked for actors who looked very similar to play Marty, both male and female.
Makes sense. To make that transformation more believable.
Exactly. And fun fact, this episode marked Rob Bowman's directorial debut on the show.
No kidding. So Genderbender was his first X-Files episode.
First one. He went on to direct a lot more, including the first movie.
That's cool. And those locations, too. That old farm where they filmed the village, it looked so authentic.
It was. And the small town scenes, that was Steveston, British Columbia. They actually used that location a few times throughout the series.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Even the music in the nightclub scenes was recycled from an old TV movie.
Huh. Budget constraints, I guess?
Probably. But it worked. Okay, so over the years, there have been some interesting interpretations of this episode.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, some people see it as reflecting anxieties about changing gender roles in the 90s.
That makes sense.
Right. And others focus more on the fear of sex, the idea of seduction being linked to something like alien abduction.
Huh. That's an interesting take.
It is. It definitely taps into some deep-seated fears.
For sure. And did it do well, ratings-wise?
Yeah, actually. Despite all the controversy, it pulled in almost 7 million households.
Not bad for a weird little episode about gender-bending aliens.
It's not bad at all. But even some of the producers weren't entirely happy with that crop circle ending.
Oh, really? Why not?
They felt it was a bit too out of left field, like it didn't really fit with the rest of the episode.
Huh. Interesting. But hey, at least Chris Carter had a sense of humor about it.
Yeah, when asked about any similarities to the Amish, he said, they don't watch TV, so I wasn't worried about it.
That's pretty funny.
So there you have it. Genderbender, an episode that's strange, unsettling, and still sparks debate even today.
Definitely a classic. And I think it really highlights what makes the X-Files so great. The blend of horror, sci-fi, and just plain weirdness.
Totally. And that ambiguous ending. It leaves you with so many questions.
Yeah. What were the Kindreds? Where did they come from? Where did they go? And what does it all mean?
Great questions, and ones that I think each viewer has to answer for themselves. So what do you think? What are your theories about the Kindred? What did their brief, mysterious appearance signify? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, keep on diving.